Hi guys, and welcome back. Today I'm doing a sketching video and I want to make these more of an occurrence on my channel and have maybe one every week because these are great when it comes to making videos and feeling like I need to do completed pieces. That can get a little stressful almost because each piece I feel like has to be good but different. And the thing about sketching is that it is building up my skills, and also I can try out a lot of different things in a much shorter amount of time. So it is definitely kind of a weight off my shoulders when I work on videos that are sketching videos, because I can let myself enjoy it and just try things out and see what works and feel like I'm building my skills rather than putting them into action, which both things are necessary for sure, but it's nice to be able to focus on getting better at something. So today's sketching session, I was drawing a lot of profile female characters. That was the kind of the concept behind all the sketches that I had going on. And I was specifically looking up Viking hair and braided hairstyles like this. And I wanted them all to look very tough and like these really awesome women that are just really capable and strong, and I wanted to give them scars and bruises and all sorts of stuff. So that is really the idea that I had behind drawing these out, and it was nice to have this concept or an idea of a type of character that I could try out a bunch of different iterations of. And profiles are one of the areas that I feel like I'm a little bit weak at, and I definitely this helped. But I can definitely see the areas where I'm still pretty weak at. But getting the depth of the different features is one thing that I'm practicing and I'm trying. So this was really great practice for that, for getting better profiles and figuring out different nose shapes and different ways to draw the lips and all sorts of stuff. So this was really a very enjoyable time for me because I was looking up really cool references, different face shapes, different nose ideas, and really cool braids and different character photographs. So overall, I just had a lot of fun just enjoying looking at reference and then turning that into something that is more seen through a filter of my way of creating artwork. So this time I was not perfectly putting down all the correct details from my references or anything like that. I was looking at them as inspiration to fuel into these sketches, something that I can take parts and pieces and see how, say, braids are woven together, and then I could really push them farther and make them bigger or more dramatic in my own artwork. And that is definitely the way that I prefer to work with references, is to use them more as a way to get the realistic details in there and a jumping off point and ideas and concepts, but it doesn't have to be perfectly what is in that photograph, because there's a lot more that I can do with it that is coming from a marriage of my own ideas and thoughts and experiences with drawing and with these concepts that I'm seeing in these photographs. So that was really just what I was going with for this one, was just looking at ways that I could incorporate the reference into a way that I want to work. And it was really cool to see a lot of these different hairstyles that I never would have thought of. It's just stuff that you have to see and to be able to visually process and then put it into your mind, so that when I'm working just out of my own head, when I'm working in a sketchbook or whatever, I have those images to look back on, and I have the way that I drew them to remember by. And that means that when it comes to actually sketching in the future, I will be able to get better and better, and I'll have these ideas of hairstyles to build on, and I can build combinations of these with other hairstyles that I have done before, or just being able to have those visual ideas in my head absolutely makes me a better artist, and it makes me a better sketcher. So I really do want to get into more of a habit of consuming visual ideas like this, looking at more face shapes, looking at more hairstyles, more clothing ideas, and really studying them and seeing what I can learn from them, and then taking those into my own way. And specifically this sketch that I'm starting to work on a little bit darker line work in just a second. This one is one that, as I was working on it, I knew that I was doing her too thin and her bust line was too high up proportionately. And that's one area that I tend to go towards a lot when I'm drawing. I realize that I make the torsos way too thin, and not just in like a stylized thin way, but just they don't look correct anymore. So that was one thing that, like, as I was working on it internally, I knew it wasn't quite right, so I was trying to remember how to fix it. And the reason that it's not really quite right, as opposed to things being able to be more stylized or letting things be more graphic like that, is that I didn't have all of the like anatomy accounted for. So the part where your back curves back, you still can see part of that even when you're looking at a side profile. The arm doesn't cover that up, but for some reason a lot of times I kind of leave that out and I slim that down. So that was one area that I knew that if I put that in there, it would make it look a lot more realistic. And that was the element that I was really trying to figure out for her. It was giving her more of a realistic proportion, but also more realistic anatomy. So she actually had everything that was supposed to be there. And yeah, that's definitely one thing that I do struggle with when I am drawing figures on my own, is that I do tend to almost simplify them too far in my head, because I'm not accounting for all elements or how different parts of the body overlap. And that is one thing that I'm trying to study and I'm trying to get better at and trying to be more aware of as I'm working, so that when I'm working off of reference like this, I can see directly, this is the part that I'm skipping over, not on purpose, but kind of on accident. So when I'm making check marks of what those things are that I'm kind of skipping past when I am working from reference, as I'm working on it, the more I'm able to, when I'm not working from reference, when I'm just working from my own head, or even when I am working from reference, I'll be able to pinpoint those problem areas that I tend to glaze over. So those are things that I'm trying to be aware of as I'm working on all these sketches. Look for things that are inaccurate or not there that should be there, and then taking note of how I can fix it, how I can make it look better, and how I can remember to do that in the future. And this time I tried very hard to not fall into my typical trap of using colors too soon. I think that I mentioned this in one of my last digital sketching type videos, where I use color a lot because it's right there and it's easy to implement. And I use it way too soon. I find when I'm sketching, I will, especially when I've been recording for a video where it's like, oh, I need to put color for this to be interesting or good. But I find that I incorporate it, like I said, way too soon into the piece. So it's still too rough, it's unrefined, and then I'm trying to shoehorn it into a colored looking finished piece, look almost. And the problem with that is that it puts more stress on me to have this piece look good and better and more finished, when that's not what it's intended to be. I haven't put enough time for it to be anything like that. So when I look at it, I struggle with it and I fight with it to try to make the colors look good and to work right. And ultimately, somehow when I look at the sketch, I don't like it because it's no longer in the same realm as a sketch to me. It becomes part of this like quasi-finished piece. And I'm trying to keep myself from going to that crutch of color, of thinking that it has to be there, that I need to work on it, that I need to have it, because I definitely had a lot better time with this sketching session when I almost completely, I use a little accent of it, but almost completely avoided the color, because I was able to focus on the forms and the shapes and the reference and the things that I was learning, rather than jumping into color and figuring out, oh, well, how is this going to work? How am I going to make sure that this color is cleaned up enough to work with this very messy sketch? How do I make those work together? So when I work with color like this too soon, it takes me away from the main goal of why I'm sketching, and that can be a huge distraction. So I actually feel pretty proud of myself that I was able to keep myself focused on what I wanted, and to be aware enough that that was definitely a hindrance and not a benefit as far as using colors. So yeah, overall, this was a lot more satisfying for me to be able to like completely ignore colors and just work on what I wanted to work on. And that is pretty much it for today's video. I feel really happy about this sketching session that I had. And I think that the big thing that really helped me to really enjoy this one more so than some of my most recent sketching sessions, is that I had a very specific concept that I was studying and I was drawing. So I was doing profiles of women and I was studying different hairstyles, specifically braided ones. So having that very specific concept that I was looking up reference for and studying and trying to draw different iterations of that general concept really helped take some of the where I wasn't really sure what should I draw next. Does it really matter? Am I actually practicing? Because this I was very specifically practicing something. I was expanding my visual vocabulary as far as faces and hairstyles. So when I'm drawing on my own, I'll be able to do that and draw these types of hairstyles. So I absolutely felt like I was learning and I was getting better. And I was able to have this cohesive concept behind everything that I did. So I really liked that. And also avoiding the color was a big thing too. It helped it keep it reined in to where it needed to be for me. So overall, I'm just really happy with what I got done here and the fact that I enjoyed it so much. So yeah, like I said, that is pretty much it for today. So thank you so much for watching and I will see you guys in my next one.